Let's talk a little baseball. It's with our good friend, Bill Krueger. Sorry, Bill, for the wait. I'm sorry. I went long, and you know what?
No problem.
And now here we are with the great Bill Krueger. His weekly visit brought to you by Rise Above Foundation, Native Youth RiseAbove.org. We talk baseball every Tuesday with the big lefty, Bill Krueger. And Krueger, they're still alive. I don't know how they're doing it. Well, I know how they're doing it.
Never say die.
They're winning games. Never say die. The lesson is you never give up on your team, even though I gave up on them. And I know I'm a bad fan. I'm a hypocrite, but they still have a chance. How are they doing it, Bill?
Hey, remember, Puck, was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Come on now. Let's go. He's on a roll. Leave him alone.
Yeah, leave him alone. No, it's one of the greatest movies ever.
It is. Animal House, classic. Their pitching always gives you a chance, which, sometimes people are like, oh, God, we never score. But you know what? If you had a choice between scoring a whole bunch or not scoring a whole lot and having the pitching, you'd choose the pitching every time. So, and the fact of the matter is they've come to life since Dan Wilson and Edgar Martinez have taken over, whether that's just timing, and they were fortunate to have the right timing because they were coming off a huge losing streak on the road. But obviously the numbers have changed. You look at all their offensive numbers, they've gone up since Edgar's taken over. So
yeah, you
have to be able to give him some credit. His quiet, influential messaging, I think, has settled some of our bigger stars, particularly Julio Rodriguez down, and he seems to be swinging the bat better, which is really important.
Is it just that? Is it as simple as, hey, let's just not get so caught up in all the numbers right now. Let's just get back to, I don't know, to like the little league basics and see ball, hit ball. Is that what Edgar's doing?
I don't know that it's quite like that. The players have the numbers. There's no question. But I think when you have someone that, like Edgar, whose voice isn't loud, but it's smart, and the players realize that he's talking about things that are particular to their approach, little things that maybe get them on time or get them on balance, or maybe a way that you want to think about your day at the plate coming up against a certain pitcher. I think that's where his value is completely off the charts. So, and he has the kind of rep to talk to a guy like Julio Rodriguez. He's of Latin descent. He's got to be at some level a hero to Julio. And Julio's got a lot of voices in his head. Let's be honest. He's got batting coaches and all kinds of people around him trying to help him be great because he wants to be great. And sometimes, it's too much noise, right? And maybe a guy like Edgar, who's soft, but makes all kinds of sense, can say things that will help him get on time. He looks more on balance. He looks more on time. That's important. He's getting a better ball to hit. He doesn't look way out in front of the breaking ball and way behind on the fastball. He looks a little bit better, okay? He's still a little long to the ball, but those are things you have to work out in the offseason. He's not going to change his stance in the middle of like the heat of the battle. But again, better ball to hit, more on time. That's Edgar.
Don't we all have those voices in our head? Wouldn't you like to know what the little voice in my head is saying right now? And conversely, I'd love to know what that little voice in your head is saying. And if I may take a stab at what that little voice is saying, it's like, why am I doing this with this schmuck? That's what I feel like the little voice in your head is saying. I mean, they're 4 games back of Houston. Yeah. They currently have the tiebreaker on Houston. They're 2 games back in the wild card, but they really are 3 games back. Something interesting, and I'm going to play this audio coming up later that Jim Duquette said on yesterday's program, and I'm just curious. He said, hey, regardless what happens, he goes, even if they sneak in and they get in, and now it's just one man's opinion. He said, it still is a disappointment from what this season was supposed to be because of the injuries to Houston, because they had a 10-game lead, because relatively they've been healthy, and the expectations going in, and it was a weak division. And they could have taken, and they should have taken more advantage of it. Do you agree with that or not?
Well, it depends if you're looking directly at their roster. let's just not talk about what happened before the roster was set. You're just looking at the roster. I would have said, hey, that 10 games over 500 is way over their ski tips. Okay. They are leaning on absolutely everything they have on the pitching side and scrapping on the offensive side. And I think you could have looked at this team at the beginning of the season if you'd have taken a hard look and said, hey, look, they're going to be challenged offensively. They are. Now, we didn't know that Julio was going to struggle. And having him, when he hits, this team changes its makeup. But the rest of it, it's not like I'm completely shocked.
Yeah.
Did I think Polanco was going to tear it up? No. Did I think Garver could be a 4-hole hitter for this team? No. Did I think that Crawford probably had his best season ever? Maybe. Did I think the rest of the cast is kind of ham and eggy? We got an awful lot of mileage out of Dylan Moore, an awful lot of mileage out of Josh Rojas early. And, you know, the amazing under the rock relief corps that Jerry DiPoto seems to come up with has always given us a couple of good surprises. But I saw the reality. Lack of total lineup offense, lots of punch outs, a bullpen that lacked Matt Brash. So I think being 10 over was completely off. They were in Never Land. They weren't going to stay there. But point well taken. Great pitching. Center fielder, shortstop, catcher, young closer. That's kind of Yahtzee. You and I like that word. But that's going back prior to the season starting. What happened prior? When we talk about the club that was put together, it was a great moment. And I think they played really, really well until they started to struggle late in the season. And then it just seemed like, you know, it was time for something else to change. And that's why Scott Service lost his job. I think you could pick on them a little bit at the deadline. Yeah, they did a lot of, kind of a hat trick. You know, you get rid of Stanek, you get rid of French, you find some money, you go chase a couple guys. Turner's a pro hitter. That's not too bad a pickup. Arozarena's got some offensive ability. Maybe you catch him on the up. But they never addressed the bullpen. The bullpen was short, and they knew that. They didn't have any left-handed pitching. And to me, that is the singular place where I feel like they've kind of let the club down. They could have done something then. The Marlins were there to be had. Who do you want? You want Jazz Chisholm. You want our left-handed relievers. You want the switch hitting guy, Bell.
Oh, Josh Bell.
Yeah, you want those guys. You want them? They're there. We got JT Chargois. Okay, he's a nice little pitcher, but he's kind of a middle, even behind kind of pitcher that we already have a whole bunch of. He's done a nice job. But we could have had Puck, or we could have had Tanner Scott, or maybe we could have had both. That's what they needed. Then you don't give up the late home run when our right-handed pitchers are still trying to blow people away in the seventh inning because they're not used to pitching A in the seventh, and B, you don't have guys available. So I think that's where I think you could place some criticism. Okay. Is that fair? So Puckett can sit back. He's been a GM before. It's easy when you've kind of been there and done that, and you can stand away from it and go, wow, I'd have done this and I'd have done that, and I'm, the smartest man in the world, right? But you're under unique pressures from your ownership. You're the general manager. So I think there's some levity that you have to provide Jerry DiPoto when you consider what he has to work with.
I agree, and I think it was part of a full range discussion on it, and I think and Jim acknowledged it even started before the season, kind of to your point, that it was going into the season what they thought they were going to have with the pitching that they have. His point is that the expectation this year was to win the division. Now, listen, they may still win. I guess they still have a chance to win the division. So. Yep. But he just said the way that then it laid out, and the fact is, yes, they did have some deficiencies offensively, but then when you get up 10 games, like it's really hard to collapse like that. And, they did. I mean, they collapsed big time. And I guess his point was, it's like, even if you do get in, it's not how you should have got in, I guess was his point. But, I guess at the end of the day, right, Bill, all that matters is, that final game. Can you sneak in, and we'll see if they can do it. They got 12 games remaining. What would you put your hope meter at right now that they sneak in?
Oh, I think it's more than what the number is in the column far to the right there in the standings. So I don't know what that number is, 8%, something. I don't know.
Yeah, probably something like that. Like their playoff chances.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
you look at Houston. They got a little bit. Of course, the Mariners have a heady challenge ahead of them when you've got Houston and the Yankees, but they got no pushover schedule down there in Houston, and neither does Minnesota. And Minnesota sounds a little bit like something's awry inside that ball club right now. Managers calling out the club a little bit.
Yeah, they're falling apart.
That sounds a little bit like they're struggling. Guys, it's sort of the whole like, who's going to show up today? Who's going to play? So that's got a kind of an underlying message, because some good players don't always play, right? Buxton, Correa, they don't always play. So that's disruptive, particularly when that sort of message is out there, right? So, maybe they slip and fall. I mean, Kansas City's right there. Certainly Detroit is playing good baseball. So those teams, it's a scrum there. It's tough to sort of figure out if you're going to advance every day against the wild card, but you certainly know where you stand with Houston, right? You have the tiebreaker, or you should have it. I mean, I guess they have to win at least one against Houston to
Correct.
have the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to those 3 games in Houston. To me, that's the whole thing. That's really the whole thing.
Yeah, and then they so you got Woo tonight that is going here on Tuesday against Luis Gil, and then the Twins and Guardians, and and the Twins and Guardians, and really, Bill, this has been the week for the Cougs. Okay, Apple Cup win, check.
Yes.
Gardner Minshew, great for the Raiders. Dayon Henley, great for the Chargers. Kyle Mazzardo yesterday hits the game-winning home run, former Coug for the Guardians to knock off the Twins. I mean, hey, Seattle, you're welcome. You're welcome for us. What we are providing to you. We're providing you fun.
Yeah, you got a lot of rarefied air underneath your feet, man. You're feeling pretty good.
Well, you got to soak it in.
The way that they've been treated, or fell to the position they fell into, to have it turn out the way it did this weekend was pretty sweet. Yeah.
Well, Mazzardo had a hell of a career there for the Cougs. Tigers and Royals game 2, and then the Astros and Padres will get underway later today. Well, your thoughts? I'm curious. Your thoughts on Randy Arozarena? You want him back? You hope they bring him back, or do you think that maybe they'll move him in the offseason? I mean, they can bring him back. He's just going to make more money because of arbitration. But moving forward with him, what do you think?
I think they have a better version of him for $4 million for 2 years and an option.
That being
Robles.
Okay.
So I'm looking for another outfielder. I'm not spending that kind of money on Arozarena. He's okay defensively. I'm not sure. I'm not real. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't want him, but when you start thinking about, well, what's he making? 12 now? He's going to be arbitration eligible. What's that going to be?
Is it 12 or is it 8? I got to go check.
8? Maybe I'm wrong. It could be 8, but he's going to make more. It's a lot of money. He's going to make more. He's going to be a double digit, way up in the double digits number. Okay. And that's going to be a critical issue for the Mariners. And to me, when I watch him, it feels to me like his instincts are, I'm not going to get paid. So I think he gets a little hangdog. He is a little hangdog. He's way up here, or he's hangdog. Right?
I agree.
I agree with that. Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, does he have some juice? Yeah, he's still got some juice. He's okay defensively. But Robles, to me, man, he's a player. You got to keep him in one piece. He can't get hit by pitches, and he's got to get stronger because he's going to play now. He's a good player, man. He's putting the ball in play, and he's making stuff happen. He's a really nice find. I mean, he's a really good player that's hungry to be great. And but you bought his years now. You got him where, and Arozarena can just feel it, right? And that deal's not coming my way.
Yeah.
So he's kind of biding his time. He comes across the country to play for us, and he just emotionally, that's just what I see with this guy. I mean, I want him to do well. I don't have any, I don't have a negative about him, but I'm not like enamored by him. I mean, he's better than what we got when you have, the kind of cast that we've been throwing out there. And I'm not picking on these guys, but when you're running Dylan Moore in the outfield and Dominic Canzone, and, you're running, Mitch Haniger, which is a whole nother topic. We need another outfielder.
Played. Is he on the team?
He plays, we had the left-handed pitcher over the weekend. All those guys showed up. Garver got in the lineup, and Rios got in the lineup, and Hanner got in the lineup. They all got in against. We loaded the box, man, which was fine. I mean,
Yeah.
Mitch has had a great career, but I don't think you're going to see the best of him. I don't think that's there anymore. That's what I can see.
I agree with you, but the problem is, you owe him 17. I can't remember if it's 17 or 12 for him. I think it's 17 for him and 12 for Garver. I mean, you owe money. He's got a player option. He's going to pick that. He's not going to do you a favor and go, you know what? I've had a great career. I'm not going to pick up the player option. Of course he's going to do that. But I want to go back to your point with Arozarena. I agree with you 100%. Like, I love Randy Arozarena. I love the energy he brings, the emotion he brings. I know for some, what he did the other day, it clearly upset Jonah Heim, and I get that, and for some, it's not how they like the game to be played, and I get it, I respect it. I think there's a line that you can cross. I don't think he got there, but there is always going to be a line that you can cross. But I guess I would say this to Randy: always have that emotion. Like, always carry yourself in that positive form, because what happens when they aren't winning and he's not doing well, he doesn't have it. And at times he looks like he doesn't want to be here. Like, he doesn't have that energy. But when they win and there's success, then he brings it. And so that is a concern of mine, looking at him, for the future.
Yeah, I think we're both on the same page there. I mean, today's game is all about beating your chest and having this sort of, like, if you don't do that, then I guess you're not trying hard. You got to show all that panache. Otherwise, you're not trying hard. If you just go about your business and put your head down, run around the bases, I guess you don't care.
But there's a
celebrating and doing 360s and throwing the bat 30 feet in the air. I think you can kind of get where I'm coming from.
But there's a place for both of it, is there?
It's all part of it. We're playing that way now, and nobody should take offense, because that's how we're all playing now.
But there's a place for both of it, don't you think? I mean, I watched King Griffey Jr. pimp a lot of home runs in his time.
Yeah, but it's not quite like that. But look, it's fine. I'm not going to get into this. I'm not going to get in this discussion with you about it. I think you know where I come from in regards to the John Wooden adage, act like you've done it before.
I got you.
That's where I come from. So, and that doesn't mean we walk around solemnly and we don't say a word and we're mutes. I think you can celebrate. I just think it should be more about your team than about you. How's that?
And no, I hear you. And again, I see both sides. I do.
Okay. I just think it's the high and low thing, to me, says something about his character. Okay.
Right.
And then if you don't have good character, that's a problem for me. And I think he's not a great player. And you have to if you're going to spend that kind of dough, I think you want a better player. Now, can they get that quote unquote better player here? I don't know. You also have to remind yourself, I mean, some of that money, that Haniger money, this is all about horse trade. You have to remember what you would have had to pay Robbie Ray. So there's a savings in there. You're going to look at it and go, oh my God, they got to carry Haniger's money. Well, they don't have to. There's one less or two less years you have to pay Robbie Ray. So, I mean, they need to look at it that way.
You know what? It's always
when they
glass
move forward
half.
To spend money. They've already saved money, is what I'm getting at.
I know what you're saying. One of the first times that I think I've ever witnessed you at a loss for words, happened a few days ago. And I'm watching the post-game show with you and Brad Adam talking about Bryan Woo. You couldn't get the words out. You were just like, I don't know how he's doing it. You were just like, you were flabbergasted because you were so in awe of a guy that has such command of a fastball and was delivering it so well, just over and over and over again. And what I say is that you were just so impressed by it that you were just like, I don't know if I have enough words to talk about how great and dominant he can be. That sort of
speaks to kind of what sounds like a poor performance on my part, but
no, you were great.
As I remember that, I was actually trying to recall a couple people's names, and I got kind of stuck in between. And what I was trying to think of was Bartolo Colon, Rick Russell, and Kevin Brown.
Wow.
Now, those are three guys that threw hard, that threw sinking fastballs, that threw the fastball and moved the fastball around and pitched almost exclusively with the fastball and pitched at a very high level. Bryan Woo kind of falls into the category with those guys, right? Tons of fastballs, a lot of movement. He's really, really got a pretty solid delivery. He can repeat. So his command of a moving fastball and a fastball at the top of the zone is elite, right? And there's something about the way he comes down the mound. There's something about when he breaks his hands and he kind of gets low with his arm, and there's just an illusion that the ball's coming in on a plane. Let's say the hitter seeing the ball on a plane that it looks like it's going to be thigh high, and it ends up being what? Chest high. And they swing underneath it. And guys have just not been able to sort of say, I got to get my hands on top of the baseball, right? Tatis did it. Tatis got his hands up. Hey, Tatis, wow, what a talent. What
So
a
good.
talent.
So good.
What a
He's
talent.
so good.
If you didn't see him play this last series, what a talent.
The best play was the play in the outfield.
Yeah.
Where he fielded it like a shortstop and threw into second. It's just unbelievable.
Like I said on the air, it's Bobby Witt or him, and Bobby Witt doesn't even play the outfield. So, I mean, there's not very many people can make that play, right? And then he goes back to the wall and steals the home run, right?
He's so
and
good.
He was playing kind of mid outfield. He wasn't playing deep, so he had a long ways to go, a real steep angle to get to that ball. So, and then, reverse the fastball for a homer. I mean, Padres, man.
Good. They got all the talent in the world. I just think what I guess I was doing, what I wanted to articulate is that I watching you that night, I could just tell, and just in talking to you, how we have here for the last few months, is just how much you like watching him pitch.
Yeah.
And that you just respect and like the way he goes about it. And he's just fun to watch, and he's got that quiet demeanor. And then I love when that little emotion comes out. There with Bryan Woo, and it's just it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch him go against the Yankees. Huge series for them. 12 games to go. We'll see if they can do it. I've taken up too much of your time. You are the best. I love that you do it every single week with us. Every Tuesday we talk baseball with Bill Krueger. It's all brought to you by Rise Above Foundation. Go visit nativeyouthriseabove.org. If you're coming in late, you missed it. This will be up on YouTube. Also, you want to listen to it, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and, of course, up at pucksports.com.